Hey guys, thank you for joining us. Is in our post-game reaction last night for the Poe Zone, and I got Patrick with me here.
What's up, guys? Viva la Ravens.
Viva la Ravens. Well, let's get into it. It's cliche to say this, but it was like, a tale of two halves, right?
Yeah.
They came out, and I think everyone on social media, everyone in Baltimore, every Ravens fan was like, this we've been here before, we've seen this before. But they made the corrections and adjustments they needed at half and came out as a completely different team. But just looking at the stats, Lamar, 16 for 22, 152 yards in the air.
It was just efficient. Like, he didn't do anything more than he had to, which I appreciate. I mean, people look at that 152. I've already seen people saying, well, he only had 152 yards passing, but
look at the rushing yards.
He had no turnovers, no
and
fumbles,
100 yards rushing.
100 yards rushing. And the 100 yards rushing, in my opinion, is almost more impressive than the 150 in the air because it's controlling the game. It's controlling the pace of the game. We were able to burn the clock down. With every run he would have, we would get to burn the clock. He's less likely to turn over the ball. Almost all of his fumbles happen in the pocket. He's not really fumbling the ball when he's on the run. So, I mean, he just dominated the game. It was one of the most efficient, games he's played. The sacks at the end of the first half, after sleeping on it, I'm not as upset as I was in the moment. There was a minute left and they were just trying to look for the big play. I mean, it sucked that they let it happen, back to back, but it didn't turn out to be the backbreaker I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I thought some of his design runs from the first half looked awkward and strange compared to like what we've seen all year. But they adjusted. They made some changes in the second half, and that's where he got, most of his yards on the ground when he on the option read and when he had the ball. So yeah, they did what they needed to do, adjusted when they needed to, and that shows a great game plan from Todd Monken as well, and he's able to
adjust.
I mean, everyone tries to make adjustments at half, whether they're successful or not. That the game ends up going the way it's going to go, but this was a moment in time where everything worked out for the Ravens on offense in the second half.
Yeah, I don't think they were expecting the Texans to come out and blitz 75% of downs. They blitzed 75% of downs. And I think that took the Ravens, a little bit off guard, and they weren't expecting it. And, maybe there was a little bit of, on Monken's part, expecting Lamar to handle the free blitzer like he's done, his whole career. And they just coverages weren't working the way they should, for the offensive line. And they had to adjust, and they did. I mean, because the second half, as soon as the second half rolled around, we hit quick slants, quick blitz beaters, and they just got destroyed. The game, was over after they figured out the blitz. So
I miss the days where after each possession, the quarterback would go to the bench with like an iPad.
Mm-hmm.
And like I remember watching when they used to have like printouts of the defensive formations, and like the Peyton Manning days where he used to sit and review after every possession, like what the defense was doing.
Brady, spiking them.
Yeah. I guess Brady started breaking the iPads, so they were like, oh, this is too expensive to try to do this for every game. But they must have done that. They must have, they're doing that in real time up in the box in Monken's box where he's working with his staff to kind of call each play and then doing kind of real time analysis of what the defense is giving us and showing us. So, I have a lot of respect for someone that could do that and handle that and then come out and make the calls needed and the adjustments needed and then find success in the second half. And that's really, this was on Lamar.
Yep.
But it also was on the rest of the offense, the staff. The blocking was better. The offensive line blocking was better.
It was. And I kind of want to go into that with what you were just saying. Like, I think Monken did adjust a lot, but how much do you think of that was Lamar, like, taking over? Like, we saw him light up Ronnie Stanley for his missed block on like a rush that easily could have been a 10-yard first down, something.
He slapped his helmet because he was in his way. He was blocking, but he was also
mad.
Yeah, there was a bunch of grass right after that, between Lamar and Stanley, and right after that there was an open field, if I remember that play correctly.
And he lit him up, and I don't know what he said, but it obviously worked, because from that moment on, Ronnie played a much better game, and I think it shows maturity for both of the players, who are both veterans at this point. Lamar and Ronnie are veteran NFL players. And to react, that could have gone two ways. You can take the criticism and fester and, things get worse, or you can take the criticism and you can do better. And he took the criticism and he did better. And in fairness, after I think they scored the touchdown on a play or two later, I don't remember exactly, Lamar immediately went up and gave Ronnie a big hug, and they, kissed and made up. But I think that's maturity, and it just shows what they can do.
I would like to be I would like to have been a fly on the wall in the locker room at halftime, because apparently Lamar said it was inappropriate what he said to the entire team.
He could not repeat it. It would have been inappropriate to repeat.
But I mean, there's a picture going around on social media of him looking pissed off as he's going down the steps, going back to the locker room, and that he had that same look in his eyes during the 49ers game. I remember there was something I noticed just watching the game, like something changed with him, and he's like, nope, not this time. And he took over, and he was the commander that they needed, the leader that they needed. And, I'm happy to see that. We've had some quarterbacks in the past, Joe Flacco, that never was animated. The criticism.
Wouldn't step up. Yeah. Wouldn't step up and lead like that. Very quiet.
And maybe that works, maybe that works too, being quiet and passive. But I don't think in sports, I am not so sure that the quiet, reserved leader is who you want to motivate everyone around you, or, hold everyone else accountable to their jobs that they need to do. Just do your job. And I bet you Lamar said that in a roundabout way in the locker room in the second half.
Well, I mean, in fairness, I think Lamar hasn't usually been that type of player to light people up like that. He is usually like the even-keeled, quieter guy. And so you have to know that for him to get to that point, the players are going to listen. And Patrick Queen, I think he said it in his post-game press conference. They asked him about it, about what he said. And he said, well, I'm not going to tell you what he said, but when the leader talks, you sit down and listen. And he said they all sat down and listened, and it clearly worked. So, I like this Lamar. This is like MVP 2.0 Lamar.
Absolutely.
Mean, I don't even want to, I still think the first half, it just was, the Texans are a football team. They're in the playoffs. They were playing good defense. Like, it's something we kind of forget, and we've been spoiled by the Ravens blowing out every good team they played, is that the other team is also a football team. They're not trying to let you score. Like, they have plans, and, they're playing too. So it's, it took a minute, but they did it, and they never turned back. And I mean, I'd like to pivot to the defense, who I got my old Nada jersey on.
Hello, Nada.
The defense let up a whole Nada. I don't have a pun on it.
Let's talk about that for a second. Like, we're talking about the offense needing a halftime speech to get locked in and step up. But yeah, talking about being spoiled, like, we as Ravens fans have been spoiled for a very long time with a defense that, I mean, aside from the punt return, 3 points. 3 points in the playoff game.
3 points.
So you can't, I mean, that is
no snaps in the red zone.
That's absolutely stellar. That's stellar from the defense, and we are very, very spoiled. And we're also spoiled to have the reincarnation of Ray Lewis leading the defense again. I don't know how,
he is a psychopath. I love it.
How did Chicago, let him go?
I have no idea. If your scheme doesn't match Roquan Smith, then you need to change your scheme.
Yes.
Talk
about a leader. Talk about a leader, man.
I mean, like he said in his post game, he was wearing his little cowboy outfit, and he had his Canadian tuxedo on with like the alligator skin, I don't know, and his black cowboy hat. and they asked him about the black cowboy hat, and they said usually the villains, wear it, and he's like, well, I'm happy to be the villain. Like, that's fine.
We've gotten so
He's
many
like, I'm daddy.
gems. We've gotten so many audio clip gems from him this whole
He
year
is insane.
to
He
be.
has to be doing it on purpose, right? Like, he has to be doing it on purpose.
I
He's
think
not
he's
that
dead
corny.
serious.
I think it's awesome. I mean, if I, you're right. You're right. I actually think he is dead serious, and that's what makes it even better. Is because I think he truly believes everything he says, which is awesome because he's living up to it. So
he's not as preachy as Ray Lewis was.
yeah,
and
well,
I say that in a respectful way because everybody has their beliefs and everything like that. But Roquan will say things like 75% less of the words used that Ray Lewis uses, right? But it's the same point, and he's just like he does not. I guess it's his personality or whatever. He's just straight to the point, and they're going to come here. We're going to lock them in here until the game's over, and then we're going to let them out. We are going to let them out.
We'll let them know when they can leave. Yeah, I mean, and they did it. And I mean, going to the rust argument, most of our defensive starters sat in week 18 as well.
Yep.
And there was no rust on the defense. None. Granted, they gave up a couple third downs, some long third downs, which I was getting a little heated about. But again, they've got the offensive rookie of the year on the other side. I mean, he's going to make plays. You can't, in this day and age, you can't stop him fully. And we basically did. So, like, I just think our defense it's one of those historic defenses. I mean, they already set the record, first in points, first in sacks, first in takeaways. That's never happened in NFL history. And I just hope that we can ride them, have them shut down whoever we go against and let Lamar cook with Cook.
I still like the defense, like I'm talking about the rust real quickly again, like the defense, it's different for them because they come out and they see 70,000 fans like having their backs on,
and they did
on defense, and that helps them. And I mean, 6 false starts or delayed games like from the Texans for 70 total yards. Wait, never mind. I just messed up, Patrick. They have 11. They had 11 penalties for 70 yards. 6 of those were false starts, which is I was saying a record is weird because I don't think that's like something that the Texans would be proud of, but that's a Texans record. That many yards in the playoffs for 11 penalties. Like, and the fans and the crowd was there. They were there. They were part of the defense. They were helping them there. So I don't think you need to be, worry about rust even if you're having an off day. I mean, if I were to go into the workplace, right, and show up and I had 70,000 people around me screaming at me, being like, "Get them, do it!" I don't know if
I'd probably poop my pants first of all. No,
I think I would motivate me to, just play up to my caliber, right?
No, they killed it. I mean, they killed it. There's just no. I mean, and honestly, the 3 points that they gave up, it was like a 27-yard punt. Like, I think they basically started maybe like 10 yards out of field goal range. Like, it's not like they gave up a 70-yard drive for a field goal. Like, it was like 10 yards. So
I know
to me, I mean, it's basically as good as a shutout. Now, special teams though, that was concerning, and it's concerned me all year.
You can't be playing like that in the playoffs.
No, that's been concerning all year, and I feel like every time and I get that was a punt return, but I feel like even every time we've on a kickoff that we're letting them return it, we're letting them get 30 or 40 yards. Like, our coverage team is not in sync. Something isn't working there. And I'm not really sure what it is. I don't know if it's the players or they're just not executing the blocking schemes correctly, but I don't want to see any I want a touchback every time. Like, I don't want to deal with it.
That's the strategy, right?
Touchback every time. Just kick it out. We don't even need to, like, why risk the injury to maybe save 10 yards or most likely give up an extra 15 yards. So, I think weird. But the punt return, I mean, kudos to that guy. It sounded like he had just been called up from the practice squad. He didn't have a ton of experience. He made a great run, and we didn't block. And there were players that I saw that just whiffed, including Stout, who had him by the legs and couldn't stop him. So, I think they'll turn it around though. I think they'll turn it around.
Speaking of special teams, Devin Duvernay back there, he seems like he didn't have a great game either. As a punt returner.
I mean, as a punt return, no, I didn't think he had a good game, but he did set the tone for the second half. Started off nice kick return, put us in good position, and went straight down and capitalized. So
he did. I forgot about that. You're right.
Yep. I've been critical on Duvernay this year, and I think I'm critical because a lot of people still like to say he's an all-pro kick returner, and that was true like 4 years ago, but I don't think that he plays like he did 4 years ago. I think he's playing like timid. Like he doesn't make decisive decisions.
He did look timid.
Yeah, and I mean, I get that this was his first game back from injury, but it's been like that all year. And I mean, I thought that's why I was kind of upset Tylan Wallace is injured, because I thought Tylan like kind of gave a little boost to that kick and punt return.
Yeah.
That Duvernay wasn't giving.
I mean, Justice Hill too. Justice Hill's been.
The only reason I don't want Justice out there is because I don't want him to get injured on a kick or punt. Like that's the only reason, because I think Justice Hill has been. God, that's a player that I have much maligned over the last couple of years that has really, really stepped up. Justice Hill he's taken the role that he knows he wasn't a top 3 option on this team. Or he was the 3rd option on this team when we started the year, and he knew that, and he would have even got bumped down to 4 with Keaton Mitchell, and Hill has stepped up, and I'm very proud of him. I mean, Gus is Gus. He had a couple good runs, he had a couple not so good runs, but I still would love like a feature running back. Like Keaton might be next year if he comes back healthy, but I don't know. It was just a great game. And we only let up 38 yards rushing to the Texans. 38 yards.
Like I said, the defense is
their
scary.
best rusher. He had 9 carries for 22 yards for Devin Singletary, 9 carries, 22 yards at 2.4 yards per carry, with one of those rushes being 16 yards. So really his per carry average was like half a yard, other than the one long one he got. Dalvin Cook, who came in at the end of the 4th quarter, had 23 yards, one more than their leading rusher in garbage time.
Yeah, the defense, our defense, like I said, we're spoiled with what we have, and back to I want to kind of highlight what you said about Devin Duvernay and setting the tone for the second half.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not every day, especially in the playoffs, that in a half of football the team can score on every possession. Something special.
Yep.
I mean, it was just Jekyll and Hyde, because we struggled, again, back to what we said in the first half, right? But to come out, to have that return, set the tone for that first drive, and then we went up by 7, right? And then the next 2 possessions, we had 2 more touchdowns, right?
Yep.
That's a backbreaker. You can't. The other team has to play perfect football on their side of the ball in order to catch up with that. So if we have that capability, which we do, we've seen it, and that's why it's frustrating to see them have the first half that they had, because
we know they can be better.
Yeah, we know
they can do it.
But we also need to be realistic. Like, it's not, you don't, I mean, no team can, I mean, everybody wants to score on every possession, right?
Right. We want every game to be 70-0, which is what I thought the game was going to be. So I'm sorry that I was wrong. 34-10 is pretty good. I'm happy enough. But no, I know exactly. I mean, you can't score on every possession, because there's another team across from you playing football. Yeah. They're getting paid millions of dollars to stop you. So, I mean, I kind of want to talk about the 4 touchdowns Lamar had. And I think the 2 passing touchdowns were great. The little drag to Aguilar, like, that was a nice little
that pass to Likely where the fingertip catch. The fingertip catch.
He mossed him. He just straight up, he posterized him. Is that the term? He just jumped right over him and caught that ball.
Likely's going to be special. He was, I remember 2 years ago when he, was coming in training camp, we heard a bunch of talk about how he was looking, great. And That's why I still say, like, it's not a big, Mark Andrews is the man. He's great. He's been phenomenal for us, but I don't think there's that much of a drop off. Maybe in blocking. I would have to go back and look at blocking, but Likely is a beast.
I think Andrews gives you more flexibility to run different plays out of the same formation. I think that's where Mark shines, because Likely is more of that like receiving threat. Not that Mark isn't, because Mark is a huge receiving threat, but he is a good blocker, and you can line him up on the line and he could be blocking. Like, go back to that Miami game where Pat Ricard leaked out for that touchdown to the left, where he was blocking and just kind of slipped off. That's what Mark can do. Likely, I don't think he can block as well. And I know last year he got called for quite a few holding penalties on the edges, if I remember. But I think he's better this year. I mean, he is. He's a fantastic player. But I think what's going to happen, as long as Mark comes back this week, I think we're going to see a lot of both of them out there at the same time. And either both of them and 3 wide receivers, or 2 wide receivers, 2 tight ends and a running back, and you can just run so much out of that formation. It could be pass, it could be play action, it could be a run, and they just aren't going to know, and it just gives layers to the offense that and then obviously Lamar but that pass to Likely, it was a perfectly called play. It was the perfect rollout to the right.
Perfect looks like pass. Lamar's perfect pass.
He put it. It's funny. It was a wobbler. It wasn't his best like throw, but it was,
but with the location of
it. It's like there's no pictures.
It could have been picked any lower. It could have been picked.
Right. It was either up. It was either up and Likely could catch it, or it was going to be overthrown and incomplete. There was no chance it was going to be intercepted. And that's what Lamar did all day. And I think, we were talking about it before, and I think it's kind of what was going on in the first half. I think Lamar was afraid of turning over the ball, because I think he knows in those 3 playoff losses we'd had before, he turned over the ball and it ended the game. So I don't know if it was rust or he was just nervous because
hesitant.
He knew. Yeah, maybe he was just hesitant because he knew if he turned it over, it wouldn't have been game over, but it just affects you. And I think once that Likely touchdown happened, I mean, he was
momentum's a hell of a thing in football, isn't it?
Yep, it is.
Like when Flacco was our quarterback, I would always watch games, and like it's based upon the first play. If it was a completion, then I got a sense, that Flacco was on that game. Same thing can be said with Lamar. You always want that, and that's why like it's frustrating watching a game like at least the beginning of the game yesterday, where you're like, come on, just set a tone, get some momentum here, some easy passes, and we did move the ball. The first
drive. I mean, the first 2 drives actually weren't bad. It was after those first 2 drives that things started sputtering and
So we covered everything in the game from last night, right? So who do we want tonight? Who do we want next week at the bank? Bills or the Chiefs?
This one has been, part of me wants to say screw them both, and it doesn't really matter, because I think
I'm there with you. I think no matter
screw
what, them both.
We're going to win by 21. I think I saw Texans fans felt really disrespected by the betting line, that 9.5 point spread. And you know what? The Ravens should have felt disrespected that they thought they even had a 10-point chance, and I think that next week, whoever it is, will probably be like 4 or 5 point favorites or something. And like, we're going to win by 21 points. Like, I just don't see the Bills. If they win, they have a decent offense, but they're missing some guys, and their defense is missing a ton of guys.
Yeah, defense is beat up on the Bills for sure.
So like their defense is wrecked. So if we face the Bills, okay, yeah, like, I think we'll be able to score on them, but he has to play our defense. And Patrick Mahomes, I mean, they have an okay defense. They have a better defense than they've had recently, but their offense can't do anything.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think it's all narrative about who I'd rather have. Part of me doesn't want Kansas City because of the whole Taylor Swift and NFL and Mahomes and all that. And like,
I
understand
every play is going to cut away to her reaction to what's happening to
Mahomes. Like, screw off, kid.
Yeah,
but if we play them, then we get America on our side. You know what I mean? It'll be America with Baltimore against the Chiefs, because nobody other than
except
people
Kansas.
in the Midwest
Kansas
want
City.
to see Kansas City in the Super Bowl. Nobody.
I mean, that would be a very I think from an NFL perspective, like I don't know if I'm an NFL executive would want the Chiefs in the Super Bowl again. But who knows?
Yeah, people don't want the whole thing with the Patriots anymore. People are sick of dynasties. We want parity. I want to see different teams win. Like, I don't want to see Patrick Mahomes in his 4th Super Bowl. Like, I don't think we will, because I think the Ravens are going to break him in half. But the Bills,
I don't see them getting by the Bills. I think the Bills are going to win.
I think so too. A part of me just hopes they both look like crap tonight. They just both look like crap, and the Bills somehow squeak out a win or something. I don't know.
It's going to be a good one tonight.
Yeah, it'll be a good one. Last night's was not a good one. And if I was a 49ers fan, I would feel very, very, very not confident in that team.
They're a little delusional, though. I'm sure they're confident.
Well, they're majorly delusional. I'm still seeing that they think that they'd be favorites in a Super Bowl matchup between us, and I'm like,
only thing I don't like is there's just the rematch side of it. I don't like. Yeah. It's hard, like you touched on earlier. It's hard. I mean, on the other side of the ball, they're professionals playing a game and trying to win as well, and they're going to be extra. Well, I guess. How much more motivation do you need if you make the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah.
to win the Super Bowl.
Any more motivation than that, you're probably playing the wrong sport.
Yeah, so I think they just definitely deserve to lose that game yesterday. I wanted to see Green Bay kind of. Unfortunately, that kicker, I didn't know he was the worst kicker in the league this year.
I had no idea. That was terrible. I mean, to hear his coach say that every time he goes out for a kick, he's praying that guy can't be on the team next year. I mean, that's one of the biggest I don't know. I just can't even believe he said that. And it's true. I mean, he's right, but it's the way to that kicker is going to have the biggest yips of his life now. He's going to go through his whole offseason thinking he doesn't have a team, which he probably won't. So
yeah, I'm not sure if he got cut from Green Bay, if anybody would pick him up. I mean, a kicker's. I mean, it's rough to be a kicker, right? If you miss big kicks and big moments, then you're kind of done.
Yeah, you're kind of done. Everything else, nothing else matters. I mean, just like Cundiff, I felt like he Cundiffed the kick. It just.
Yeah, the second they missed that kick, I was like, oh no! Now the 49ers have the ball in good field position, and they're gonna go down and score.
Right down with Christian.
And Purdy looked off
McCaffrey.
Too. Purdy looks.
He did look off. He did not impress me. The 49ers did not impress me, because the Packers are not a good football team. They were not a good football team this year, and they blew out the Cowboys, who also are not a good football team. And I don't know. I'm just not. I'm not really worried. I mean, I think that they'll still end up coming out of the NFC. I don't know if the Lions or the Buccaneers are going to be able to beat them. Part of me kind of hopes the Lions win today, just so that because I think they give a better shot against
Baker Mayfield, though. Baker's been playing pretty good.
Baker's been cooking, man.
He loves an underdog. That's an AFC North mentality, right? We're always AFC North teams are always considered underdogs in a lot of games, right? And I think he got that grit from playing with the Browns and having to play us and the Steelers, and so he knows what he's capable of doing. And I think it's going to be a really close game. And I mean. Lions, it's a nice story, but I don't see. It could be the Bucs. I like the Bucs in this game tonight.
I'm not even necessarily picking the Lions. I'm just thinking more of who can beat the 49ers, but I don't know. The 49ers just look beautiful.
I think the Bucs can beat. I think the Bucs can beat the 49ers. If Jordan Love can hang with the 49ers like he did last night, I think the Bucs, with Baker back there, I think they give them
without a Mike Evans or a Godwin to catch the ball either. Like Jordan Love, it's not like he had those weapons other than Aaron Jones. So I'm interested to see what happens today. But either way, I'm excited for next week.
Yeah, two good games.
Excited for next week.
All right, well, we go ahead and wrap this up. But yeah, great game last night. Excited for the games today. Definitely excited for next week. Thank you, Patrick, for joining the call in the Poe Zone.
Thanks for having me.
And yep, we'll do this more often. And
sounds great.
All right, sir. You have a good one.
Adios.